Great, so we're here with Timo
Hey.
at the Supercritical booth. How you guys doing?
Good. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, good man, good. What have you brought to the show this year?
So we have our Redshift 6 synthesizer, which is out now. It's 6 voices polyphonic, all analog synthesizer with digitally controlled analog oscillators. Overall 96 oscillators, so that's 16 per voice. And I think if it's a good thing, we can Janne can immediately demonstrate something big and multi-timbral for us, so we get an idea of what we're talking about.
Amazing. Nice
Thanks.
playing.
Yeah, so all of that is from, when we heard is live from a single Redshift 6. So even though it's 6-voice analog poly with the 16 oscillators and using paraphony, so playing chords with just a single voice, we can get that much action out of a relatively compact and simple synthesizer in that sense. But as you can hear, it's quite feature-packed.
Absolutely, yeah. There's kind of a lot going on. There's sort of layers in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the first big patch, for an example, it had, I think it had a stereo pad using 2 voices because it's using paraphony. So Janne was playing 3 or 4 note chords there. In addition, I think about 4 layers of basses and arpeggios playing all the time. So actually, I think 1 voice was left free, or or was that 6? Maybe that was 6.
It's got an epic sound, like really big.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that also we've been working hard on to make it really that it's not just feature-packed, but it also sounds great. And one of the things related to that is the character control. So that adjusts basically the fine details of the filter's response. So it can sound kind of like classic OTA filter or classic ladder filter, or let's say a diode-ladder or so on, and that controls like the precise response shape of the filter, the amount of distortion, slop between the voices, and so on. So at one point this can sound like one vintage legend, and another point in time like another vintage legend, or you can make it sound relatively modern, like you can do super soul stuff and so on. So it's kind of it's not just feature packed, but it's also flexible.
Absolutely, yeah, really versatile.
Yeah.
Amazing. And you've got a couple of them set up here.
Yeah, 4 actually here.
4.
Yeah. We brought 3 and 1 back up, and then it turned out that there's so many people that we had to take the 4th one out.
Amazing. And are you do you update it? Do you have like firmware updates and things that you bring to it as well?
Absolutely. So it's out now. It came out without, for example, the multi-timbrality, but that's now in public beta. It's going to be stable in a very small amount of time. We're just fixing a few last bugs there before we call it stable. Then we're going to bring MPE in the next update, and then a lot of other new features. For an example, the DCO is going to get a new engine, so now you can use it to stack the oscillators, or you can use it for paraphony, but later you can use it as a partials engine where you kind of do a drawbar kind of thingy with the large number of oscillators, or like a phase sync engine, for an example, where you phase them against each other for kind of a super flanger sound where you can control the flanging with your envelopes and stuff like that. And then there's stuff that these are stuff that we basically have proof of concept already, but we're just gonna need to find the time to bring the UI into the firmware. And then there's kind of like blue sky stuff that we haven't really done yet, but that we're thinking of that goes way beyond it, and I probably shouldn't talk about it until it's closer to being done.
Yeah, absolutely. And what sort of interfacing can you do with it in terms of inputs and outputs?
Yeah, well, so it's got USB MIDI and ordinary DIN MIDI in out, and the MIDI syncs to clock right now. And as I said, there will be MPE soon. Otherwise, all the usual stuff, the multi-timbral parts you can of course use with individual MIDI channels. So you can, for example, sequence 6 individual voices or something like that. And so basically all the usual MIDI stuff. It has 6 outputs, so you can get even every single voice out into its own output if you like. And yeah, and it's got power in.
Amazing. And in terms of programming a sound for it, like where would you start going through, like building a sound using?
So let's say we go to Shift plus Performance init patch. So this is just a starting point. Let's say I go to the DCO screen, I add some detune. Let me switch to pulse oscillator for oscillator 2. I'll modulate that with LFO1 for some PDM. And then let's say now I want to make that a super saw-like thing, so I add stack. This increases the number of oscillators, and now I'm adding detune, and this is still fully polyphonic. And and then the filter screen has a visualization. For the filter, there's mostly quick controls. And then there's obviously the character. That's relatively simple in terms of using. You just turn it. The characters indeed have. Some of them are more distorted. This isn't the best sound to present the different characters, but maybe you can hear some of the differences. And then one of the reasons, and then the modulators, you choose the page and you then adjust the modulator like the envelopes and LFOs and so on. And one of the reasons why we have this kind of interface where you choose a screen and then you turn endless encoders is because of the multi-timbrality. So that would be difficult with knob per function, but here, because I can just, I just press 2 and now I'm editing part 2. I press 1 and now I'm editing part 1, and so on. So the reason for this kind of interface is that this makes the multi-timbrality so much better to use. And in addition, also when we bring in the new engines soon, then also the new engines don't have to break an existing user interface, but they can instead add to it. So we're not making the synth worse by making it more.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like a really intuitive interface and quite a unique way of interacting with the parameters you have here.
Thanks. Yeah, we're quite happy with it, especially how it's working out now that we're bringing in the new features and everything. So Jussi can show us how it works as a sequencer controlled instrument with multi-timbrality and so on. So I think you have some loops for us.
Excellent, excellent. And it's available. When's it available?
It's available now.
Okay, yeah. And how much does it retail for?
$12.59 right now.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, thank you very much for showing us. Really, really impressive piece of kit.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.